Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Charles Sabansi. We want to welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamerspro Show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, and entertainment, and when we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. And this is going to be one kind of show for you guys. But before we even get into it, please make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. And also, if you want to follow me on Instagram, my name is Charles Tabansi, C-T-A-B-A-N-Z. That's my handle. And also make sure you follow Dreamerspro. Dreamerspro is the name on IG. Let me get into this topic here. This is something I'm going to enjoy deeply, this topic, and I'll tell you why. As you guys remember, a number of months ago, there was a scandal that broke out in the NBA. And the scandal was centered on former Boston Celtic head coach Ime Udoka. What happened? For those of you who don't remember, Brad Stevens, who was coaching the team, had the team around they were like a 500 team or something like that, or maybe below 500, but around the 500, hovering at 500 mark. And the team wasn't going anywhere. So they made an executive decision within the organization to move Brad Stevens, I think, to the general manager slot. And then they now promoted Ime Udoka as a first-year head coach as a, I think, assistant coach at the time to head coach. He takes the reins of the team, and immediately they go from a team that was floundering to having one of the best records in the second half of the season, finishing the season with a winning record, and they finished that year with being ranked the number one rated defense, and he helped coach that team to one of the most impressive defensive showcases in round one against the Brooklyn Nets. Then he had another defensive slugfest against Giannis Antetokounmpo, and ultimately they made it to the NBA Finals, where they lost to Stephen Curry and the Golden State Warriors. Good. That happened. Ime Udoka was the hottest man in sports. Then what happened? Shortly after that, a scandal broke, and we were all talking about it. Even my mom was talking about it. I say even everybody and their mama. No, my mama was talking about it. And the scandal was, apparently Ime Udoka had a consensual relationship with a Boston Celtic staff member, which apparently goes against the guidelines of that particular organization, because not every organization frowns on that. Some do, some don't. So it wasn't like as if he broke a law. Let me repeat it for the Malika Andrews in the room. It wasn't as if he broke a law. Good. So that takes place. Then what happens? The news breaks. Then the Boston Celtics elect to hold a press conference, I believe with the team owner, and Brad Stevens was there, to talk about the story and to basically talk about the discipline that they were going to be handing down to Ime Udoka, who ultimately, I don't think he was fired. He was suspended without pay. Good. Then what happens? Stephen A. Smith on his show on ESPN First Take is discussing the issue. And he has on there Malika Andrews, who's one of the people that definitely don't have as much tenure as he does at ESPN, and certainly not the face of ESPN the way Stephen A. Smith is. So he brings her on the show. And while Stephen A. Smith is talking, Malika Andrews takes it upon herself to basically try to dictate to Stephen A. Smith on his own show, on the man's show, what they will be discussing and what they will not be discussing. And the thing was so confrontational, it got to the point where Stephen A. Smith himself had to say to Malika Andrews, you need to pump your brakes and understand you're on my show. So for those of you who don't remember that exchange, we want to quickly play it for you now, and then we're going to come back and continue on with this show. Take a listen to that there.
Stephen A., with all due respect, this is not about pointing the finger. Stop. What became apparent to me in this press conference is that we do not have all of the information here. And it was frustrating to me that the Celtics declined to elaborate or to give more specifics about what exactly the rule breaking was that led us to this point. So that I just want to get that out of the way first. But to answer your question, Molly, I think what stood out to me, I think what stood out to me is that Brad Stevens, he was upset. That's what stood out to me about what he termed rampant Twitter BS is the word that he used, that women were unfairly dragged into this within the Celtics organization. You could see that Brad Stevens was visibly upset about this. And I also found that to be gross and unnecessary, that folks were bringing in the names and the images of women that is just not a fact. That was purely speculation. And so to me, that is what stood out. But the Celtics as an organization could have done more, and short of doing more ahead of this yesterday, they could have owned that responsibility in this press conference. I understand that there were legal parameters that they had to operate within for everybody involved, and I appreciate the fact that they brought in outside counsel and did a thorough organization. And I think that that is something that was clearly necessary in this situation. But the fact that it was able to go on all day, the fact that we are sitting here debating whether somebody else should have been suspended or not, we are not here, Stephen A., to further blame women. That is not why we are here.
First of all, let me be very clear. I don't appreciate where you're going with that. I'm not blaming anybody but Ime Udoka. He deserves, the fact of the matter is, I've said he deserved to be fired if they were going to fire him. If you're not going to fire him, then don't fire him. My issue is all of this being publicized. The point that I'm trying to make is just like you're not mentioning. Excuse me. I listened to you. You're the one telling me to stop on my show. It ain't happening. Okay, that's number one. Number two, I've already said he deserves to be fired, or he deserves to be there and handle it internally and privately. If you're not going to handle it privately, if you're going to publicize it in that fashion, then obviously it provokes everybody wanting to know, okay, well, who are the parties involved? When you have Amina Smith in Boston and other women pointing out the fact that there were women who were wrongly implicated in all of this, it's a disservice to them. I didn't come out with the report about a consensual relationship. I didn't come out with the report ahead of time leaking that they were going to suspend him for the year. They did that. And my point is, considering how pervasive this kind of stuff has existed in professional sports for many years, my whole point is that, make sure that you handle it in the same fashion it has always been handled.
So you heard the exchange. The issue Malika Andrews was having was, why are you looking to put blame on the woman? We're not making this about women. But the problem was, there were no victims here. This was a consensual affair, which involved a head coach and a staff member. So then what started happening? Brad Stevens and these guys made it clear in that press conference that they were upset. Get this. They were upset at the fact that people were beginning to speculate about who the identity of the woman was. And I said to myself, if you don't want people to speculate, number one, why even bring up the story in the first place? Why didn't you discipline Ime Udoka quietly instead of making it this public spectacle? I mean, where do you live? You're going to bring this case to the public forum and say, we're going to be suspending our coach because he did this. And one person in the room is going to say, okay, but who did he do it with? And you're going to say, no, we're going to protect the identity. So what do you think people are going to do? Of course, people are now going to start speculating and scouring through the internet to figure out, well, who is this person? And you're talking about we're trying to protect her identity by doing that. The fact of the matter was they were trying to flog Ime Udoka publicly and then keep the other staff members' identity private. And the situation became so much of a contentious point at ESPN that one day, former ESPN staff member Jalen Rose was on television on NBA Tonight or something like that. And the show was, on the panel, it was Stephen A. Smith, Mike Greenberg, Mike Wilbon, and Jalen Rose. And they were discussing Ime Udoka about the chances of him being hired by the Brooklyn Nets as the head coach. And Jalen Rose, all he did was ask the question, which was, but if we know who Ime Udoka, if they've released Ime Udoka's information and it's a consenting relationship, why don't we find out who the lady was? Shortly after that, Jalen Rose came out during that same show and had to read an on-air apology talking about, after going through the facts of the case, I understand why. And I'm like, wait a minute. How the hell are you going to go through the facts of a case over a commercial break? He was forced to apologize. ESPN forced that man to apologize for simply asking a question. So then what happens? The other party, or the third party in all of this, Nia Long, then begins to speak up and voice her grievances. You all know who Nia Long is. Fantastic actress. Fantastic. Excellent actress. She says at the time, if the Boston Celtics were so transfixed on protecting women, because that was their virtues, that was the virtue signaling they were doing. If they were so transfixed on protecting women, why didn't they protect this woman? No one had a bleeping answer, not even the Malika Andrews of the world. Months go by. Then this morning I'm doing research, and I came across an article from the Los Angeles Times that says the following as the headline: Nia Long slams Boston Celtics for making ex-fiance Ime Udoka infidelity public last year. Nia Long channeled activist Yaba Blaze's words to criticize the Boston Celtics a year after she split with the team's former head coach Ime Udoka. On Tuesday, the Best Man and You People actor shared a snippet from Blaze's 2022 appearance on We Can Do Hard Things podcast. In the clip, Blaze tells hosts Glennon Doley and Abby Wambach why she thinks white women's concerns often take precedence over those of black women. She said, "We've been socialized to see white women as more human and more value," said Blaze, who is black. "So whatever it is you think and whatever it is you feel, you're supposed to respond to it." Blaze then continues on. "The minute a white woman cries, the world has to stop. Black women cry and we could be rolling around on the ground screaming, and you're unmoved because you've been socialized not to see us as human beings." The article then goes on. Now here's the crux of all of this, because at first I didn't understand it. I want to show you the post of where Nia Long shared this on her page a few days ago. Nia Long writes to this post that we're not playing because I just read it to you. Where was the level of self-awareness a year ago at the Boston Celtics ? Hashtag Kathleen Lynch. Hashtag Kathleen Lynch. I hope it's not lost on some of you what just happened. I hope it's not lost on you. Essentially, what Nia Long just did was she revealed the identity of the third party. And in the past, she said, if these guys, the Celtics, were so concerned about protecting women, why didn't they protect me? Why didn't they try to spare me from the embarrassment and the embarrassment my child was going to feel? That was her question, because remember, they're protecting women. Y'all remember that. So what did I do? I started doing research to understand who is this person. According to a rough source, don't quote me, it says Kathleen Lynch is the former team service manager for the Boston Celtics involved in a scandal with Ime Udoka. Now here's the kicker of it all. Ime Udoka wasn't married. Ime Udoka was not married at the time. That lady was. That lady was. Married with kids. Apparently she was a Mormon or something like this. She was married. But nevertheless, Ime Udoka, and it was the thing I said in the past, I said, why is it that they're only releasing this guy's name? Because I said, I don't want it to be that workplace misconduct. You have an image of a black guy standing up there. That was my issue. Whoever's involved, let it be known. If it's a man, if it's a woman, if it's a goat, if it's a rat, let it be known so we all know. But it makes it seem as if Ime had a scandal with himself when he didn't. And for Nia Long, I want you guys to think about the rationale behind this. For Nia Long, who is the innocent party in all of this, not Kathleen, not Ime Udoka, but Nia Long, because it happened to her, and then maybe the lady's husband, her family. For her, after facing that public shame and embarrassment for being annexed to a disgusting story like this, for her to still come out and release this woman's name tells you a lot. It speaks volumes. Volumes. Which goes to show you that there are levels to all of this. There are levels to it. There are rights, men's rights, women's rights, and then there's subgroups within the groups. And it seems to me that there are various hierarchies within some of these groups. And maybe that's what Nia Long is exposing. For her to do that means that she kept this frustration with her for a long time. You don't know what would have happened in their relationship. I'm talking about Nia Long and Ime Udoka. Had this been a private matter, maybe they could have worked it out. But maybe because of the public embarrassment that she faced, she was forced to take another decision. People don't even think about this. So to me, I'm happy she spoke her part. She did nothing wrong. She spoke her part. She was the victim in this. Her and the husband of the woman. Those are the real victims here. And she has a right to speak her piece. And I love it. I absolutely love it. These are my thoughts. Whatever you guys think, leave your thoughts in the comment section. We catch you on the next show. Peace.